You're watching Old Crow's Classic Cars on Unbox TV. Well, she got her daddy's car and she cruised through the hamburger stand now. So unfortunately the Thunderbird behind me is not mine. It's a client and a friend's car. But he got it down in the States, in Oklahoma. And he got it a few years back. I think he's the third owner. And he brought it back here up to the cold winters of Canada. Although he doesn't drive, unlike me, he doesn't drive it in the winter. So this is a 1961 Thunderbird. It was made by Ford. As you can probably see, it's a pretty big car. It was a luxury car during '61, and President Kennedy used it in one of his, I think, in the inauguration day. He had a car, one of these cars, leading it. It's a very fancy car. It's got power seats, power windows. I think power windows were optional, but so it's got the power seats, it's got power brakes. This one is actually also set up with AC. Even though it's not really installed right now, it's set up for it. It's a big V8. It's a 390, a Ford 390. So you step on the accelerator, it goes. So I think when he got it, it was in better shape than the cars that I usually get. So it was pretty much drivable. But he did do a lot of repairs on it, like in terms of safety. So when you get a car of this age, usually you'll need some new brakes, brake pads, but you might as well go ahead and replace the brake cylinders, and that's what he did. So the tire brake system, brake pads, the springs, they're all pretty much new. He got it repainted too, so the original color was like a whitish color. Now it's at this, I usually tend to call it orange, but he says he corrects me. If he hears me saying that, he'll say it's a coral. So it's this kind of coral color. It's an original color. It's what it would have originally been on, it was an original color option, so you would have seen other T-Birds in this color during that time. He also got the upholstery inside was also white, so it's a white on white, which he didn't really like. So he got the upholstery changed to like a tannish, slightly different color. So, well, it's probably not really a project. I just did some maintenance work on it. I actually met him at the gas station, and when he was showing me pictures of this car, that's how we met. So I just did basic maintenance work. There are some gaskets that were leaking. I think it was if I recall correctly, yeah, it was the oil pan gasket that was leaking. The power steering pump, there was also a leak on it. So I rebuilt the power steering pump. Ended up, it was just again, gaskets are always an issue with a car this old. You're always going to have leaks unless they're all brand new, or retighten. You're also supposed to retighten the head bolts, cylinder block bolts, the intake manifold bolts, carburetor bolts. There's a lot of retightening that you should do, and that'll most often remove the leaks. But we went ahead and replaced the gaskets on the valve covers as well. I changed the gasket on those, and when I got the car, the idle on the carburetor was set really high, so it would, even in reverse, as soon as you let off the brakes, it would just start running away. So I turned the idle down a bit, just a screw. So it's just basic maintenance work. I think we replaced the oil at some point too. And on the power steering pump, it was just a garter. It's called a garter spring. It's a round spring that goes around the seal and the seal it's rubber, right? So it being over 50 years old, it's natural that there would have been a little bit of a leak. So right now there's supposed to be no leaks whatsoever. Oh man, I'd probably stay here for a while if I'm going to tell you all the nice features about it. It's twin headlights. It's a big car, which I really like. It's pretty cool. Very, very fun to drive. And driving it is a big difference than driving an average car. This is a ship. It's not really a car, it's a ship. It glides. So even speed bumps or potholes, you just, you don't even feel it. You don't even feel the road. I like that the style is, the 60s was an era for space exploration. Lots of people were into space explorations. Everybody was interested in the idea of humans going into space, and that was reflected onto the cars. So a lot of the cars, they came designed like rockets, like spaceships. So if you look at the rear headlights, the rear lights, they look like the end of a rocket, space, 4, 3, rocket 2, ship. 1. So I think that's pretty cool. It's still a very simple car. Another thing that I really like about it is the starter motor. And I know that sounds funny for people that don't understand a lot about cars, but the starter motor in most cars, even today, it's got a motor and it's got a solenoid on top of it that controls the engagement of the starter ring, or the gear of the starter into the flywheel, the gear on the flywheel. So there's a solenoid that it actually pushes the pinion of the motor into contact with the gear. Now this car doesn't have that. It's completely mechanical. It automatically moves in and out when needed. So there's no electrical, they just removed the electrical component. The solenoid is electrical, it's still an electromagnet. They just removed that and made it completely mechanical. So it's very simple and very, very reliable. I've worked in lots of cars where the problem on the starter was the solenoid. And again, electricity doesn't like water. And the starter being so close to the ground, sometimes you'll get problems there. What else can I say about this car? Oh yeah, the car was so popular and people liked it so much that the Beach Boys was a group on this. It's a musical group, a vocal group in the 60s. Nothing like driving a T-Bird listening to the Beach Boys. For those of you that never heard of them. Well, she got her daddy's car and she cruised through the hamburger stand now. You should have heard of them. Seems she forgot all about the library like she told her old man now. And they actually made a song about this car. It's called Fun, Fun, Fun. We'll have fun, fun, fun till the daddy takes the T-Bird away. Woohoo! So this is a guy I envy because he's the owner of this nice looking Thunderbird behind me. Dan here is the third owner.
I was nice looking.
Oh. So I actually met Dan at a gas station. I was had the Rambler. Of course, I was driving the Rambler at the gas station, and he stopped me and he's like, "Oh, nice car." And then we started talking about cars, and he showed me a few pictures of this Thunderbird. And well, as soon as you show me a picture of a car from the 60s, you kind of won my heart. So we started talking, and then I happened to live close by to where he happened to be living close by, and he dropped by every now and then for a visit. And
the whole idea was to get you to come out to different car shows.
That's right. Oh yes, that's right.
That was the whole idea.
That was back when we still had car shows, right?
To have a 63 Rambler as a daily driver. 63, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And so I think I told Tom the backstory of why this model, and I'll just share that with our audience. When people look at me and they say, why that car? A lot of people like to hang their art on the wall and just admire their art on the wall. For me, I want to drive my art. And this really depicts a real piece of art. Handle, the Art Deco interior, it's really a piece of art, you know.
It is, and they got it down to, they really thought about, it seems like back then they really, whoever designed these cars, they really thought about everything. So this is something that I found very interesting in this car. So over here on the latch, so there's two, you'll see that there's two springs where that latch onto the car, that latch the hood onto the car. Now on many cars, just the fact of that spring hitting the sheet steel, it'll scratch it and it'll remove the paint, scratch it, and then it'll start getting rust. Now over here they decided to bolt a big square piece of plate, of some sort of stainless steel plate, and it's bolted down by 4 bolts, and so that it doesn't scratch the body. I have to admire that. Somebody was really thinking about every single detail when they were making this car.
Also, like Tom said earlier, yeah, this was depicting the rocket age, and so it has Art Deco style, but it's also built in with a modern flair of the Art Deco age, with the round tail lights, the bullet nose front, and just looking at the car standing, it resembles almost like an airplane or rocket ship about to take off.
It sounds like it too.
Yeah, and the 390 engine is standard. The horsepower is 300 horse, and that's the horsepower.
It's a heavy car too, right?
Yep.
4,000
pounds. 4,000 pounds. Brand new. This car in '61, you know, it was truly a luxury car. You can either buy a small house back then in '61, or buy this car, which on the original ownership, it tells us that the owner paid $4,120. You know?
Dollar a pound almost.
It's quite a piece of history. At the end of the day, you know, it gives me pleasure, and it truly is kind of a conduit to me meeting other people out there, and it's given me a lot of pleasure in that sense. That's for sure.
But another visitor. So this wouldn't have been your regular. This wouldn't have been the first car like for teenagers. This would have been
about that. Back when I was about 17, 18 years old, I was working flipping burgers at a restaurant. The manager owned a '61 TBird, and he really thought that I might enjoy driving this car and offered it to me for sale. And of course, it was not a brand new car. It was probably in the '70s, close to 10 years old. I was quite enamored right away as soon as I sat inside it, and just felt and understood what this car means, and how beautiful it really was. And the thrill was there's a slide over, a swing steering wheel. Sorry, they call it a.
Oh yeah, there's that too. Yeah.
Wheel. So they thought of everything, like Tom said earlier. It's just a lot of thinking to give you comfort. And of course, I went home all excited, and it was offered to me for about $800. And I went home all excited, told my father about it. He said no. I said, well, being just the man that he was, he said to me that there's no such word as why in the Italian language. So don't tell me why, and you can't buy this. At the end of the day, he finally explained to me I can't afford the insurance, and I'm so glad I went along with it and did not buy it. I would have probably wrecked the car and killed myself. You know, it's a powerful car for a young teenager to be behind.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
for sure.
You'd have been having a lot of fun with it for sure.
Very casual. He was very curious and researched a lot of the information and had a lot of fun, I think, discovering how easy it was to actually work on the car.
Well, it's nice that he mentioned that, because I've worked on other cars, even on a Cadillac, a 69 Cadillac, and it's a whole different story. So the thing that I like about the Thunderbird is it's still a very simple car. It's not much different than the Rambler in many ways. It's just a big engine and a big car. Whereas the Cadillac, they came out with all sorts of features and wires, which would have been even more fancy than the Thunderbird, but that just really overcomplicates things and makes repairing them a nightmare. Yeah. But the Thunderbird is they just put a big engine and heavy duty components. So, oh yeah, there's one more thing. This car, the Thunderbird, at one point they actually came out with hydraulically operated wipers. So it would actually run off of the power steering pump. So again, a very, very heavy duty solution. I think these ones are electrical though. Right? They're electric, yeah. But I actually told Dan, and I always wanted to work on the Thunderbird, but because of the song. I love that Beach Boys song, and I said, what? I knew one day I had to work on the TBird while listening to the TBird song.
Fun. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure working with Tom. The bottom line, you know, no angst, no stress about it. I knew he was discovering and enjoying the simplicity of it all and the access to getting to everywhere in the car. Is that correct, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember one thing I didn't like was the oil pump, because it had a gasket inside the oil pan. It was a bit more work removing it.
Yes.
You were there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you were there.
Yes. Yeah.
But even so, it's still a great car.
Yeah. Well, I think I can sum up it by saying that there is a Southern Ontario TBird club, of which I was a member of for a number of years. Great group of individuals, and there's also an international TBird club, of which I'm a member online through Facebook. And at the end of the day, it really revolves around keeping this kind of memory alive and just keeping this type of technology alive. When you're in this car, it cruises and floats. 4,000 pounds.
It's heavy duty. It's overall they combined luxury with still making it heavy duty. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful engineering. Simple and luxurious.
Piece of art on wheels.
Well, here's something I often say to people. Well, why this car? Why a classic car? Well, you'll see a lot of new Teslas driving around. You'll see some guy with a brand new Corvette that's worth 60 grand. But heads will turn when you see a car like this, or a Rambler, or a classic car. Yeah. Heads turn when people see that. And yeah, Tesla, well, it's another car. It's like I said, a Mustang, you'll see them, but you won't see. This really catches your eye. This really, people are waving and kids are waving at you and thumbs are going up. People are smiling. So I think that's a very nice experience too.
100%. 100%.
So at the heart of the Thunderbird is the big 390 engine, which is a big Ford V8. So the number, actually, for those of you that don't know, the number actually refers to cubic inch displacement, which is basically how much air and fuel mixture the engine is using. So bigger engines use up more fuel and air mixture. So it actually says there on the nice little original sticker here, 390 cubic inches. And in liters, that's about 6.6 liter. So that's the entire displacement of the engine. It's a pretty big engine. I think the other engine available for the TBird was the 350, a slightly smaller engine. Still very, very big. Still a big V8. Bigger than, for you to have an idea, I think the modern F250s have a 5-liter engine in it. Some have a 6-liter. So this here is basically a big truck engine in a car. So again, not very... The nice thing about the Thunderbird, like I said, it's still the simplicity. It's still a luxury car, but it's still very, very simple. A very heavy-duty, reliable car. So over here you've got the big air filter, and then you also have the coolant reservoir where you can fill up coolant going to the radiator. So this here is kind of optional. A lot of cars don't have this, and basically it's just it serves to prevent any overflowing or any coolant from leaking out of the engine when the coolant is hot and expands. But it's not really mandatory. It's not again, it's optional. Over here we've got a cool brass hose for the heater core, a big battery, starter solenoid. It's a big fan. It's got a shroud too, and over there you've got the AC pump. So unfortunately the clutch and the pulley are missing on it. I don't know exactly why, but it would be nice to get that reinstalled at some point so that you can have air conditioning, some fresh air during winter. Over there we have the power steering reservoir, the oil reservoir. So that's where you put in oil for the power steering. Again, I'm usually used to the brute force cars, so the Rambler doesn't have any power steering assist, which makes it a bit harder to steer if you're stopped. For me, it's still fine. Just I'm using both hands instead of, whereas in the Thunderbird here you can just use a finger to turn the steering wheel. Again, it's the reason being they had luxury in mind, right? Over there we've got the power brake booster unit. So that uses vacuum from the engine to again assist with braking, so you don't have to press really hard on the brake pedal to stop the car. That is probably kind of a necessity in a car this big. Again, it's all, braking a car has all to do with the weight and the overall weight and momentum of the car. So a big truck it requires a lot more braking force to stop than a smaller car. Hence Ramblers, little small, Ford Falcons, smaller cars, they're okay to have just 100% manual brakes with drums. And again, a lot of people, there's debate, a lot of people you'll hear a lot of people saying, oh, you need to switch to disc brakes. No, if the manufacturer used original drum brakes, it should be fine. But again, for a car this big, this car, for you to have an idea, it probably weighs about twice as much as a modern car. So 4,000 pounds it's over 2 tons. It's very heavy. I feel bad if anybody were to get in an accident with this car today. So the brake booster is, again, kind of it's a very nice feature, and it's not complicated. It's very simple. It's just one pipe. You'll see one pipe that goes to the engine, and that's for the vacuum. and that has to be nicely tight. The clamps on it have to be tight and sealed up. So if you have a leak, then you'll kind of have to step harder on the brakes. This Thunderbird actually has a single brake master cylinder unit. So that's something that I thought was interesting, because AMC came out with that as early as 1960, maybe in the 50s. I think they came out with dual reservoir master cylinders. So it's basically two cylinders in one. One for the front brakes and one for the rear. So if one brake line starts to leak, you're still able to stop the car because you still have the two wheels. This here just has one, which is fine if everything should be maintained anyways. So I just thought it was nice, because after a few years after 1961, I think still in the 60s, the government came up with a law that manufacturers had to have dual reservoir master cylinders, but it's still nice to see the single units. Over here you can actually see the top posts of the shock absorbers, which were all changed on this car. The suspension, again, this is something that I say, anything rubber doesn't last very long. Anything that's thin rubber doesn't last very well for over 60 years. So anything that's rubber in the suspension, such as bushings and seals, it's nice if you can replace them. It's not going to be terrible, but if you can replace them, it'll make a difference. You'll get a smoother ride. So it looks like everything's been replaced. It's nice to work on a car like this, and I rarely get the chance. Everything is clean. As you can see, all the bolts, I think the bolts, they were made with higher quality steel, because as you can see, all the bolts are fine. They come off easily if you ever have to. Easy to change a shock absorber, and everything in the car is nice. Everything's clean, which usually I'm working on stuff that's missing. Fenders, floors, there's rats' nests, raccoons have been sleeping under the inside or under the seats. So it's nice when I'm able to work on a car like this. Over here, the owner replaced, Dan there replaced the relay. This is a typical Ford relay. I think it's actually called now a Ford style relay for the starter. And the battery is also new, a nice big battery. You need to have a big battery for a big car. It takes a lot more force on the starter to turn an engine this big. And it's just a it's a car to admire. So over here we've got external oil coolers. So we've actually got two of them, and one of them probably for the engine oil and one of them for the transmission. I'm not sure if they are original. To the best of Dan's knowledge, they are, but it could be an aftermarket installation. I know there's an aftermarket windshield wiper motor and reservoir installed, which is cool. And again, that's something that most people take for granted today. So again, it's a luxury car, so it was very luxurious to have you're driving in a dusty road and your windshield glass has dust on it. What you'd have to do if you were driving a poor man's car is you'd have to go outside with the cloth and clean it, which for me is okay. I've never had to do that, but with the Thunderbird here, you could just press the button and windshield wiper liquid would spray onto the windshield, and you'd hit the wipers and windshield is as clean as new. I've mentioned the starter, which again for me is the most interesting thing in the car. It uses a mechanical system to engage and disengage the flywheel instead of an electromagnetic solenoid, which often needs replacement. So I think that's very cool. I mentioned this on one of my YouTube videos a while back, but it would be nice, and I've never done it, but it would be nice to try to get the Thunderbird starter on other cars, such as the Ram. But unfortunately, it's not a direct bolt-on, because it is a three bolt starter, whereas as the Rambler, for example, most starters they're just 2 bolts. So that's something different that I noticed on the Thunderbird. It's a 3-bolt starter. I like to see that there's no leaks from the valve covers. So I did the job of replacing these valve cover gaskets. How long ago? Probably maybe 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah. So it's good to see that they held up. I actually have a video. There's a few. If you're on my YouTube channel, you'll see the video where I did that job. So over on the front here, this Thunderbird, it's got smaller 14-inch rims. These are the original hubcaps for it. And then you've got the nice chrome that goes all the way around. It's a pretty cool feature. You've got the, you still have the vent windows, which I think is a very, very nice feature. You won't see this in a modern car now. And it's been very well kept. The doors open and close very nicely, unlike the Rambler where you gotta smash it. Then of course you got all the fun beautiful chrome features on the inside. Just move that button and that moves the seats there. To move it up, just fancy. Oh yeah, there's a swing away steering column here. So if I push the steering wheel, it actually swings out of the way, and that makes it easier for the driver to get into the car. Pretty fancy. You still have the original nice round airplane looking gauges. So fuel and temperature on the left, and the middle one is your speedometer on the right. It's been replaced with an aftermarket tachometer. What was there originally? Was it another tachometer? Oh, a clock. Original AM radio. There's no FM then on this radio, huh? Just AM. The heater and AC controls right in the middle. Nice and simple, just all in one spot. Fan, heat, defrost, coolant, cooler all over here. Cigarette lighter. You've also got a locking document box here. Console right in the middle too. What's this button here for?
That's the
That looks
switch.
like an,
that's the switch for the wiper motor.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the wiper motor switch. Right. Your keys are actually on the left-hand side, and apparently the reason being is that Ford was left-handed. So that's why the keys go on the left side of the steering wheel.
It may be a myth. Maybe
It's a myth, yeah.
But yeah, it's on the left side.
The hood opens down here, and oh, here's another interesting feature. The foot brakes, which, well, hand brakes or safety brakes, they actually release. Okay, this one, it's got a mechanical release on it. Then you step on that lever next to it and it says release. So.
And then also behind it is the high beam
Oh yeah,
switch.
there's a dimmer switch right at the bottom there. So here are the rocket jet looking rear lights. So it actually looks just like the end of a rocket about to take off, and when they're on, it looks even more like that. Very sturdy. So there's the lights on there. The bird out of the way, so you can have access to the keys. And of course, you've got the fuel. You actually fill the gas tank from there. The nice thing too is that it's right in the middle, so it doesn't matter which way you park at the gas station. Whichever side it'll reach, because it's right in the middle. Dan was saying that that's an original 1961 spare tire. And everything about, even the tire, it's a white wall tire. It's got all the nice pattern around it, like a race style pattern on it. Everything's just so luxurious. Jumper cables. And of course they're working just fine. You gotta have a really strong hand to open them up though, which I enjoy.
It's now a family sports car, right? And designed for a picnic, to load up stuff with the family.
Oh yeah. Well, this is nice too, and I think the jack and other tools, you can actually put them here. Is that where they go? Oh, that's just a mechanism for. That's interesting. Okay, that's in the next model. All right. Made in China. I don't think it's original.
Definitely enough for 2 tons.
No. Oh, it might be a 3-ton jack. Lift it. Well, she got her daddy's car and she cruised through the hamburger stand now. Seems she forgot all about the library, like she told her old man now. The radio blasting goes cruising just as fast as she can now. And she'll have fun, fun, fun till the daddy takes the TBird away. She's staring till she walks this and drives like an ace now. 8500 look like her own material base now. Try to catch her, but she leads him on a wild goose chase now. Hey, was that another? Did you see that car up there? Woo! Woo! keys, you've been thinking that your fun is all through now. Along with me, cause we got a lot of things to do now. Fun, 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 till the daddy takes the T-Bird away. Fun till the daddy takes the T-Bird away. Woo, woo. Let it go.
Thanks, dude. Thanks for everything today.
My pleasure. Love it.
It was a fun day.